Sorry,
Hey
just
everybody,
dancing to
Richard
the
Pickett
music.
here. Sorry, an abrupt end to the music. Richard Pickett here with Shell, and our guest tonight is Chris Salem, or Christopher Salem. I think you go by Chris, correct?
Either one's fine. Yeah, whatever's comfortable for both of you is fine by me.
Alrighty. And as you guys know from seeing some of our interviews in the past, we have a couple bullet questions we get right out of the top. So you guys hear Chris explain who he is, what he does, and all that, and we get right into it. So I will start that off right now. So Chris, tell everyone who you are, what you do, and why will the people who are watching want to get to know you?
Well, thanks a lot, Richard, for first of all having me on the show. So what I do is I'm an executive coach, also a professional speaker and corporate trainer. As an executive coach, what I do is I work with both individuals and with companies. With individuals, what I do is I help entrepreneurs and business professionals to help build and sustain their brands by raising their level of influence or becoming trusted advisors in their business. How we go about doing that first is number one, to first find out what could be blocking them from playing at a higher level in terms of their confidence level. So we get to the root cause of any limited beliefs. Once we're able to build a success foundation and really identify their why and purpose to their core values and principles, then we're able to then build a brand with them, not to just what they do, but why they do what they do based upon those core values and principles. And it's not about what makes them unique or separates them from the pack, but what makes them compelling to that audience that shares similar values and principles, and that the brand will build itself from that. With companies, I do something similar, but we get involved in building interdependent work environments, also learning how to take responsibility and accountability for each other's roles to improve communication and use transparent leadership by example to become more efficient, productive, and make more money by working interdependently with one another.
Awesome. So Shell could attest to this. Like, I'm a big why guy. I always start out with why with all of my clients. I want to know why they're in business. And I think that their product is the mechanism that they communicate their why through, or their service to their customers. So I think having your why figured out is the most important part. So I love it that that's what you also seem to start with and focus on.
Exactly.
I want to actually know more about that, though. Like, what made you choose this path? Like, what's your why of like how you got started in this?
I mean, for me, the why is that I feel that everybody has a story. Everyone has a certain experience that they've experienced here, and that story or experience could help impact somebody else to come out with their own that can impact another, and so on and so on. And a lot of times people feel limited in terms of putting that out there. So in today's world with all the digital technology, we have the capability now of providing compelling content that could help others to help themselves. So it's all about, again, helping others. I come from integrity. My core values and principles always roll up to integrity and being transparent. And I'm a firm believer in when we can be transparent and come from integrity and be vulnerable, then we're open to receive ideas and information that could help us help ourselves, whether that's in our business or our personal lives.
That resonates so much with me. In fact, two of my top core values are transparency and integrity. So
awesome.
Right on the money there.
We're in alignment. We share common values and principles. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. It's so important to be transparent about like why you're doing what you're doing and where you want to go with that. And that's hindered me a lot with relationships in the past because people aren't always as forthcoming with information and willing to share. I'm very much of like a collaboration over competition mindset.
I'm the same way.
And when people don't share that mindset and they like feel like they have to hold something back, or that they're in direct competition with me, or they can't reveal too much information because I might know too much, I struggle with that sometimes, even now, to make those collaborative connections go to a deeper level if somebody's not going to be as forthright with me.
Well, that's true. I mean, when you're independent, it's great. You're accountable and responsible for your own role or task. But if you're not able to, share that, from a place of empathy and kindness with others, and sharing those strengths and offsetting those weaknesses, then you can't do bigger and better things. One person alone can't do everything. And if we can come together and do bigger and better things, that's just where that collaborative effort really pays off.
For sure. Yeah.
Awesome. So next question. And by the way, after these questions, we can go long on anything that we want. We just try to get these out of the way as quick as possible up front, so that the people that are watching really connect with what the rest of the content is really going to be about, and specifically connect with you, Chris.
Great.
So next question. What's the most impressive things that your clients say about you?
The most impressive things that clients say about me is, again, just my attention to detail. And again, really focusing on what really matters. Not only, from my perspective, but from their perspective, that I'm always putting out stuff that's about them. So, it's not about me. I'm putting out information that empowers them to draw their own conclusion, what that means to them. And I think they value the fact that I'm putting them first. But not telling them what they want to hear, but what they need to hear.
That's really good. If we only told them what they wanted to hear, then they wouldn't actually need us.
Yeah, they wouldn't grow either. I mean, it'd just be, it's short-lived. It might suffice their, where they are at their comfort level at that time, but they're not going to, be able to move within the process that leads to the results that what they're looking for.
Yeah. So the next question, as you built your brand, because I know you do coaching, you do speaking. It seems like you also do. I know you also do training. So you're out there in a number of different things. When you started, what was the most difficult thing that you found to do?
Well, the most difficult thing, again, is that I operate everything from a growth mindset. That is the foundation. So a lot of times, a lot of, companies and even some certain entrepreneurs would say, well, that's kind of like, spiritual and kind of out there. And I never really approached it from that perspective. But again, perceptions are perceptions. So I learned to kind of adapt it in a way that they could understand it in a way that they wanted to receive it at that point in time. So those were the things that were in the beginning a challenge. And again, one size doesn't fit all. So I was able to kind of adapt it where I could, break down those barriers, and then even get even more granular with whoever I was talking with, either a group or an individual, that they could relate and understand where they were at that time.
Gotcha. On the flip side, what has been the easiest? Like sometimes when you talk to other people that are doing the same things as you, they say, wow, I really have a hard time like fill in the blank. But you always have found that that's actually the easiest thing for me to do. What's been the easiest?
I mean, the easiest thing for me is just doing what I do here, is just letting everything just flow from the heart. A lot of times people ask me when I do a keynote, when I'm doing a workshop, and if I'm going to go on a podcast or do a Facebook Live, it's like, Chris, do you have everything scripted? Are you planned? I said, yeah, well, of course I have a plan, but I don't have any script. It's just whatever is going to come from here. And again, what I do is I know that the overall theme, the message I'm going to put out there, but it really comes down to the energy at that time with the audience, whether if it's virtual, in person, that I pick up on, and that's what kind of just drives what comes out of me. And again, it's all about engagement, being compelling, and allowing that the audience to receive it in the way that they want to process it and put it to use.
Yeah. When we move further into the interview, I'm going to want to dig into that a little bit more, because I'm the guy that I love process and structure, but then I also love the improv and being able to fit to the situation. So I'd love to get some advice for you on that.
Sure.
Yeah. Plan your work and work your plan.
That's it.
So what's the biggest problem that you love to solve for others? So I like to frame this in a way that, like, hey, Richard, if you find someone that has fill in the blank problems, send them to me, because I'm going to do fill in the blank for them. And in X days, they're going to have fill in the blank results. what does that statement look like for you?
I mean, for me, it's all about, trusting the process. I tell people that you are always going to be the problem and always be the solution. The answer is not outside of you. The outside, people like myself and you guys, and there's resources. We can provide methodologies, processes, have certain resources that will definitely help facilitate them getting out of their own problem into the solution, but in itself will not be the solution. So it's a two-way street. They have to do their part. So they got to really take the initiative. And those are some of the things that, that I make clear. And that when people are hearing that, it kind of, the ones that get it are the ones that are more likely to have the better experience, implement the process, customize to, where they are and their values and principles to get the results they're seeking.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm a big believer of that too, that the problems always start with me. Like every problem I have, it starts with me. I want to know, what do I need to change? Why does this problem exist? What am I doing that's helping contribute to that? I think that's very, very powerful. So last question, what's one obscure, odd, not commonly known thing that you'd like to share for people to get to know about you?
Just something about me that, well, this is something I'm a big, I'm a sports fan, but that's nothing unique. But I like music, but a lot of people would be shocked to say, God, Chris, you're so inspirational. You're so positive. Every time we hear you, just you got great things that just lighten up a room. But little people know, I love heavy metal music. I've always have. I'm 52 years old, and I'm still like I was 16 years old back in the day. So a lot of people that don't really know me wouldn't know that. So something I guess to throw out there for people that don't know me.
All right, and with that, we are done with the bullet questions that we try to get done very quickly in the beginning. So Shell, I know you've probably got more things to talk about. I've got a couple, especially I want to come back to that one about the music.
No, you can jump right in with the music. That's a great place to start.
Yeah, so I'm imagining, since you mentioned, Chris, that people view you as maybe like a new age, like years ago when you got started, and that was kind of like not a good thing necessarily. So did you feel like in some ways that, like, to the public eye, you were this zen, peaceful, the problem is within you, the answers are all inside, and then you go home and you're like heavy metal rocking it out?
Yeah,
Like,
there's a place
like
for that. Yeah, I'm always transparent when people ask me, but that music was with me when I wasn't in where I'm at today. It was with me when things were really bad and when times were tough, and when all the things that I do today, I wouldn't be able to be that example and help others help themselves if I had not gone through it. And it was the music then that was, that really helped me during that time. And to this day helps me, but in a different way, more to have fun, more about energy, because I'm very energetic. I have a lot of high energy, especially when I'm on stage, when I'm doing workshops, not in a rah-rah way, but in a way that's really engaging and gets people involved to start, doing things that is going to get them on a path to make a difference in their lives and business.
I feel like you're already in my head a little bit, because I was going to ask, like, what kind of energy does that kind of music give you, like now, as opposed to when you were younger? Is it like pump up music, or is it like, this is my relaxation, get in the zone music? Like, what is that music like? How does that make you feel?
A combination of both. So back in the day, believe it or not, it was more a way to calm me. Believe it or not, don't get me wrong, I could get fired up too, but it was more to kind of calm me. The reason being is that, back then, they didn't, I grew up in the 70s, 80s. There wasn't much known about ADHD. So I had ADHD. I was hyperactive as a child, had struggled with clarity and being focused early on in my life up into the age of 30. It wasn't until I adopted the certain processes and methodologies that I've been doing, what we call like habits and disciplines that are patterns that I've been doing for over 20 years, that have been able to offset that. Now, back then, the music was a way to kind of calm me down. So today it's more kind of, when I want to have fun, get energetic, but in some cases, sometimes it could still pacify me, depending upon it. And it's always something that I do alone. It's not something I'm not listening to it with my son or my wife. It's just
Yeah.
something that me time.
So
So to
when
speak.
you're like getting ready to give a talk on stage or something, you don't have like the music playing in the background that other
No,
people.
no, it's always it pretty much where I listen to music. It's always in the car,
Okay.
always in the car. So whether if I'm going to do a training, going to do a keynote, if I'm driving, that's when it happens. When
You're
I'm
getting
not,
in the zone.
then
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not playing it on my computer or my headphones over my phone. Nothing like that. No.
Okay. You recharge in your car. Got it.
That's it.
So I would imagine too that that gives you some mental space as well,
Yeah.
because I had this period. I can't remember if it was 2016 or 2017. Like I went through 150 books, and I would listen to them on Audible. Then I would get the Kindle version. I would go through and take notes, and I would put them in. Well, I was using a mind map. I'm trying to remember which one it was. I can't remember which program it was, but I would mind map all of them. And I found that I literally like lost my mind, because if I was awake and not focused on work, I was listening to a book or I was taking notes, and I consumed a lot of information, but I basically didn't give my brain any time to digest it. And I think it really hurt me. And I've tried to do now, like I try to just relax. Sometimes even in the car, I won't even play music. I just like enjoy some silence.
Silence. Yeah, I do that as well.
And maybe for you, if you're going to keep that habit of wanting to always listen to Audible books or like read them on Kindle, maybe separate yourself a little bit more so that it's more of like a relaxing habit as opposed to always being on and wanting to take notes, because your mind can still absorb it even if you're not like presently writing everything down and finding the information. You're gonna like take away from it more than you realize, just by like being in that moment and absorbing it through sound.
That you just hit it right there. Just being present, and not trying to overanalyze or overthink, and just being. And a lot of times, subconsciously, you could be bringing in certain messages that could just hit something inside of you that could, alter in a good way certain things you're doing in your business, your personal life, or whatever.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Shell, did you have something else to look like?
I lost my thoughts, so
Okay.
no, I'll come back to it when it goes back in there.
No
Sometimes my
worries.
mind is so like fast that like my mouth can't keep up and vice versa, so I lose thoughts sometimes, but it'll come back to me. Probably wasn't important.
So Chris, tell me about the radio show host. Are you, is that something you're still doing, or is that something that was a passing thing that you did? Tell us the story.
It's still doing it. The show is approaching its 3-year anniversary in March. As a matter of fact, the March 15th of 2020 will be 3 years. We were one of the first shows to pioneer the Voice America Influencers channel. Voice America has been around since 1999, but the Influencer channel was relatively new. Started in May of 2017, right when my show started. So we piloted 5 shows on that channel, and I'm one of like 3 remaining. Now we've added some others. Don't get me wrong, but of the original, I'm one of 3 still remaining, and it's done very, very well. So it's a live internet radio, but also acts as a podcast since we record it, and people can listen to it just like a podcast.
Awesome. I'm trying to take these shows and release them in a podcast style. So this is something that I'm definitely working on.
That's great. Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, Voice America has been very good to me. I'm not a technical person, so we always have an engineer that's recording the show for me while we have a guest on. And if it wasn't for them and the guests I've had on, Sustainable Success wouldn't be where it's at today. And so I'm very thankful or grateful for everyone involved in since our inception.
3 years sounds like a really great amount of time. I hope to have that much success 3 years down the line. I don't get me wrong, I feel successful now, but like that like just keeps you going. Like
Yeah,
it encourages me too because I see what's possible.
absolutely. No, it's great. And when you have like remarkable guests on sharing their wisdom and just sharing from the heart, there's no agenda. Uh, there's nothing better. It's compelling. It's about the audience. They get some key takeaways. We get great feedback, and in many cases they're engaged. Whether if they call in once in a while, or we'll get emails sent into the show looking for answers. And if I can't answer them, I'll always put them in touch with the guest, and they can get back to them.
That's really
Such
good.
a great platform. I'm only getting started and getting my feet wet being a guest on podcasts, but I currently do not have any aspirations to have my own podcast by myself, independent of the live streams that we're doing here together with you.
Yeah, I never dreamed, because like I said, I'm not a technical person. So like if I had to do it myself, I'd probably be like, probably not. But I'm glad that I did, and for me this works. So some people are more technical than others, and where that case they could do everything, and maybe go a route that's more affordable, and scale that way, and you could always jump platforms whenever needed that suit your needs at that time.
Sure.
So we've got a couple people that I know that are watching, but they haven't sent us any questions yet. Some questions I can think of that would be really helpful to people in the group. Most of the people in the group are just getting started, or they've started for some time. They have some success, but they're looking to take what they're doing with their personal brand to the next level. So some of the most common things are like they go through like what's your why and what's your actual product or service that you're going to be delivering. That most of them feel like they have that. But then where they begin to struggle is, I guess, in two phases. The first phase is, how can I go out and get my initial clients, or how do I go get my first speaking gig? The next one would be, okay, so I've got enough clients, I'm paying my bills, I feel like I'm somewhat successful, but now I'm ready to like take the next step. So in your career, like if you're speaking to a room full of people that have these two situations, what advice would you give them?
Well, I would say that, to answer the first question, when you're looking at, people that are just starting out, to kind of, they understand, what their why is, they understand their products. But one of the things I rarely see with businesses, and even these could be businesses that have been around for a number of years, is they don't have a value statement. Okay, there's a mission statement, there's a vision statement, but a value statement's different. A value statement is something, again, it gets back to the why. Why do you do what you do? And what are those values? I mean, not only about more, of course, about yourself, but about the company. Because a lot of times what happens is we end up getting caught up in other people's agenda. So if you have a special guru that you follow, you might be following their agenda, their values and principles, not even knowing it. And yet it doesn't really align like you think it is with you and your business. And then you end up attracting people that have nothing to do with that. And the thing is, they might not go anywhere. They might be telling you it's too expensive. Can you lower the price? I don't have the time. So the key is that you're not going to be everything for everyone. So a value statement will get you honest about you, get you honest about why you do what you do and what you do. So that way you're able to develop brand and marketing strategies, or what I like to call influence strategies as well, that will provide compelling content and information that will connect with those people that have similar values and principles. Because when they commit to you, they're committing to you. And when they commit to you, they're going to use the product or service because they're going to do their part. They're going to have a better experience. And when they have a better experience with your service and product, what do? They refer people. And that's a sustainable model for success. So it's a combination of marketing. It's a combination of just connecting, building relationships. But before you can do that, you really got to get that value statement under your belt and really be honest with yourself, making sure you're not coming from someone else's agenda. It doesn't mean you can't use it as a benchmark or you aspire to use some of that, but making sure that it does 100% align with your core values and principles. I can use this as an analogy with my marriage. Now, I'm married. This is my second marriage. Now, my first wife, obviously, I didn't do that. And and while it was a good thing, it was not, I wouldn't say that it was a mistake. I learned. It was a part of a process. We were kind of like oil and vinegar. But when I decided I really truly wanted to get married again, I went on eHarmony. And now with eHarmony, if you're going to get the most out of it, you got to be honest about yourself. So I was very honest and truthful with my values and principles. So when I put that out there and I began to get matches with women, that would align with that, at first I didn't realize, why are they matching me with international women? I didn't get this. I go, there's very little few women here in the United States. I got women in South America, women in Asia. But what I found out was that a lot of my core values, are, other than honesty and integrity and being ethical, were around family values. Now, I'm not saying that women here in the United States don't have strong family values. They do. But for the most part, it's not what it used to be back in the day, right? Back when I was a kid. You'd be lucky if you see your extended family once a year, where back in the day, I would see them almost every other weekend. That
Right.
still holds true in other cultures, especially in South America. So my wife is Venezuelan. I met her in Venezuela. We met online. We communicated for 6 months. So I use that as an analogy that when we can be truthful and honest with our values and principles, how that relates to our business, you're going to now be able to develop a marketing, a branding, and influence strategy that's going to align with the people that you truly want to build, not only do business with, but build your sphere of influence that could then become a referral machine for you going forward.
And it gives you a substantial amount of clarity that I'm sure you didn't maybe have
Absolutely.
access to or even acknowledge before you were really
Yes.
honest with yourself about what your values
Yeah,
were.
and I can say back before I went through this process 20 years ago, I was completely opposite. I was living somebody else's agenda. I was not truthful. I wasn't honest, and my life and my business were a complete mess.
I have to say, at first, and I gave you a little bit of like a eyebrow raise. I didn't know where you were going with the marriage tie-in, but it completely makes sense.
Yeah, I know people are like, what is he talking about? But I just wanted to talk about the values, because that's really what it's about. It's about, and my marriage is very strong. It's very interdependent. We have strong communication. We relate and understand. That's what you want to do or desire to do in your business with your audience.
Yeah, and do that exponentially and on a daily, ongoing basis.
Exactly. Whether if it's through social media, through some advertising, through speaking, through whatever platform that plays to your strengths. If you're not a speaker, maybe you're a writer, so maybe you're blogging. So again, it's playing to those strengths to connect on a consistent basis with your sphere of influence and that audience that aligns with those values and principles. And again, being consistent with that.
Sure. I want to also ask, because maybe some viewers can also resonate with this. When you were first getting started, and maybe even now still, are there any parts of your business, the podcast, whether you're at a speaking engagement or just showing up for a client in general, where you still feel imposter syndrome or get nervous to be in front of a crowd or in front of an audience? Like, what do you still get uncomfortable with that you still
I,
like put yourself in every day?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I mean, I've been speaking professionally for 20 years, so I would say that speaking probably, it's still kind of like autopilot for me, because I can pretty much speak on command. But there are some occasions, sometimes, if I'm speaking on something that might be slightly out of my wheelhouse. Now, normally I will not accept something that's out of my wheelhouse, but if it's something slightly out of it, I'm still able to do really good with it. But sometimes, I may get some jitters just to make sure, I got to make sure I say the right thing or use the right story, that type of thing. But for the most part, I never get myself into a situation where I'm involved in something that's completely out of my scope, so to speak.
Okay.
But in terms of clients, again, if I get into situations where it involves like accounting and IT related stuff, completely out of my wheelhouse, those are areas I could probably get like, I might, but I'm honest. I'll just say, hey, listen, I'm going to get an answer for you. I have somebody that I work with, a collaboration partner that's well versed in this area. This is a strength, and we'll get you an answer, because that's just something that would not be, something that plays to my strength.
Sure. And is there anything along those same lines? Is there anything now that um, I know you said you don't put yourself in situations that would make you feel uncomfortable, but I know you're always challenging yourself and
Oh,
you're
that in a
failing
different way.
forward and
I'm
wanting
always,
to grow.
yeah.
So what things do you find that you're doing on a consistent basis to get to the next level, whatever that might look like for you? Like what gets you uncomfortable?
What gets me uncomfortable again is knowing that anytime when I get really good at something and then I just stop and I get complacent, that I got to continue to keep working on my strengths, working on my skills that I'm good at, working on raising that value. Because if I'm going to help impact others, do it for themselves, I got to constantly raising that bar. I can't get complacent. So for me, becoming complacent or stagnant is not a good thing, and it's very uncomfortable for me. So when I'm always putting myself out of my comfort zone, that's when I get into my element. And it's something that, again, I used to approach it in a fight or flight mode, or if I said that right, or where I was constantly operating from fear. But now I don't operate from fear, but not to say that I don't feel uncomfortable, get jitters every now and then. But nonetheless, but knowing that when I do that, I'm in the growth mindset, I'm learning. And if I make a mistake, I own it and I learn from it, and trust the process, embrace it, and let the results be a byproduct of what I'm putting into it. And letting go of the things I can't control.
Yeah, I'm complacency for like when I see that in other people, when I always have a growth mindset and I want to learn and improve and be better for myself, but also for other people. But when I see other people have become complacent and they're just okay continuing to do the same thing day in and day out,
That's a
it's a
fixed
very big
mindset.
it's a very, very big red flag for me. And it's
Yeah.
like, all right, how do I smack some sense into this person and like wake them up a little bit, because otherwise I don't want to engage with them anymore. If that almost is like a fear that they're going to hold me back too, because they're not willing to grow and learn. And I try to always surround myself as much as possible with people that also want to grow, whether it's by doing the same things that I'm doing or they're doing other things, and then we can exchange information and knowledge and learn together and all be greater. Um, it's six of one, half a dozen of the other, but I always just want to be learning in some capacity. So complacency for me is like, uh-uh.
I agree. Always be learning, but applying what you learn. I love it.
Yeah.
That's really good too, about the imposter syndrome, because I think a lot of people when they first start out, they've done whatever they've been doing for a long time, so that's where their identity is, and then they have this dream of going and doing something else. And when they get that first like speak invite or whatever that would be doing that thing, that's when it's like, I'm not really a speaker, because they're still identifying with the old,
Yeah.
person, so to speak.
And that's where limited beliefs play a part in really keeping people stuck in, and a lot of times they're not aware of it. They're not aware. They just know that they're not where they want to be to themselves, but it's those limited beliefs that are holding them back from coming out of their comfort zones to grow, so that they actually can become exactly what they're aspiring to be.
Yeah, I tell them that imposter syndrome is the clue that you have that you're actually stretching your boundary, because if and when you don't have it, that means you've settled down. So if you have a growth mindset, I feel like you're always going to be somewhat uncomfortable, because you're always going to be pressing into something new. So you just have to get used to it.
Exactly.
Richard and I talk about this quite often, actually. I think it's come up in every single live, but it's relevant. It's so relevant, and people still continue to not push themselves. And so that's why it stays relevant, because I want people to be aware of that conversation, and that like they can be more confident in their abilities. And also I'm telling that to myself and reinforcing that for myself too, because it comes up a lot for me.
It's an inside job, and if people can truly understand that, the power is from within, not from the outside. The outside can assist. Look at it like if you were in a basketball game and somebody's passing the ball to you and they're assisting you for the score. That's what the outside is going to do. It's not going to score the points for you. It's not going to, win the game for you. It's only you can do that. And when you're, so again, you are the limiting yourself from holding yourself back. But yet, at the same token, you can go within to unlock that, to be the solution, embrace the process to win.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go to the second question. So after someone's established themselves for a little while, they have enough clients. I think eventually, like most coaches, they think, hey, I'm going to go and get a lot of clients. And then when they get a lot of clients, the next thing they say is, oh my goodness, I don't have a life. So So now when they're at that point where they're looking to grow their business beyond and take that next step, what things from your experience do you draw on to give them advice?
Well, like I said, I mean, there's never going to be perfect balance in life and business, but I look at life and business as one. What happens in your personal life affects your business. What happens in your business affects your personal life. So when you go to one extreme to the other, it's going to have an impact pretty much negatively either way. So think about like a seesaw. Seesaw is never going to be on its axis point like this. It's always going to be teetering. So we kind of want to be there. And is that an easy thing to do? No, there's always going to be some give or take. Sometimes you might put a little bit more emphasis on your career because you have to, scale up. And then sometimes you got to put a little more emphasis into your relationships, your family, your kids, friends, and other activities outside of your career. Nonetheless, it's not about perfection. It's striving for excellence, or what I like to call harmony. So there's no such thing as perfect balance. So with that being said, we always want to make sure that, this is an area that's really helped me in this area to maintain that harmony with my personal life, with my family. I coach my kids baseball, football, and basketball. I run a nonprofit. I'm involved with a lot of families. And people say, how do you do it? Well, I'm not saying I'm not perfect at it. Believe me, I have moments. Don't get me wrong. I'm human. But again, it's the 8 pillars of wellness that have allowed me to sustain that harmony over quite some time since I put them into practice every day. There's social wellness, there's emotional wellness, spiritual, physical, financial, occupational, intellectual, and environmental. I'd be happy to explain all 4 or all 8, excuse me, if you like. But when they're like dominoes, when they are off, they're going to affect each of them in a negative way. If they are in check or in harmony, they're going to affect them in a positive way. And that's what's going to keep that harmony going. And it's like with anything, it requires work. So how do you go about doing that? Well, you got to have a plan. You have to have a strategy. I call it a life and business strategy. So every day I know exactly certain things that I do every day. I know certain things, habits and disciplines that are now patterns I will do every day till the day I die, until I'm not breathing anymore. And that is, I wake up at 4:15 in the morning, every morning. I make my bed, I meditate, I journal, I go to the gym. Now I don't go to the gym every day, but at least 4 or 5 times out of that. But I do planks or something like that when I'm not going to the gym. I then come back, I shower, eat breakfast, and read a chapter or 2 out of a personal development, a professional development book, and then start my day with the priorities that matter most, that are most important in the moment, being laser focused. That I know every day. Now, I don't know certain things that are going to roll up to my goals that I plan for myself every quarter, every year, and every 5 years, 10 years. But I take what I know and trust the process that intelligence will reveal itself when ready, beyond my control, letting it go. And then when it comes, I plug it in. And then just like a mutual fund, it compounds over time. That process leads to those results along the way. So it's all about trusting the process, embracing it, doing your part, letting go of what you can't control, and again, having a plan. When you have a plan, you'll be able to execute the 8 pillars of wellness, find that harmony. And now you can't say, I don't have enough time. I'm overwhelmed. All the things you usually hear from people. And believe me, I was there because I didn't have time. I was emotionally bankrupt. I was stressed out. I lived in fear because I had no plan. And that's the thing. That's kind of like, in essence, kind of like a snapshot of how to help somebody get that harmony.
Yeah, and form those like really meaningful habits too.
Yes.
Because if you don't get into those habits, and really, Richard, he's putting your 5 a.m. club to shame with the 4:15 there.
Yeah, with the 4:15.
But
I wasn't in the army, But Richard, you could probably attest. I mean, beating up at 5, and when you get so much done, I mean, you get these routines done by the time when you're starting your day, you're ready to go. You're focused. You're in the zone, and it's not like you're just trying to get started. And where most people might be not getting into their zone, or maybe never do until after 9 o'clock. And that's, again, we want to be on it. Usually, not everybody's a morning person, but again, just finding that where you can make that work and developing habits and disciplines that serve you, and let them become patterns over time. Because a habit might take 3 weeks to form, but it does not get embedded in the subconscious mindset as a pattern for a minimum 6 months. It could take a year or more before it
Yeah.
becomes a pattern.
You have to stick with it.
You got to keep doing it. And if you don't want to do it and you know it's good for you, you still do it. I couldn't meditate for more than 10 seconds when I started 20 years ago. I had ADHD. How could a guy with ADHD sit for 10 seconds and try to be still? I mean, at the time it was impossible, but I did it. And today, it basically not only saved my life, but I mean, I am basically virtually symptom free of ADHD. I don't even feel like I have it. And I know I still do, but I don't, because of the routine I have. It just offsets those symptoms.
Yeah. I mean, you've gotten really good at managing it in a way that works for you, that's healthy.
Yes. But I can't, just like I said, I can't become complacent. I become complacent, and in time that ADHD, those symptoms come back, and then I start to kind of unravel, and if left unchecked for a period of time, you could go right back kind of where you started. Not saying that could take some time, but again, it's the consistency, doing it every day, that's going to be the difference maker in building your success foundation and building success, whatever that means to you in your business and life.
Yeah. So you did mention that a whole lot of different things that you do in the morning before everybody else gets started with their day, and that I love to get things done in the morning because that's where I have my most laser focus, to get things done. By 10 a.m. I feel so accomplished, and everybody else is just getting started, and then it's my like mid-afternoon slump. But do you ever feel like you're getting complacent with all the things that you've regimented for yourself and you need to switch it up a little bit, or do you just still push through to keep that habit going?
For the most part, I still stay consistent with it. If I feel something is getting stagnant, and occasionally that can happen in certain things, I will, change things up, especially with my workout routine. I won't stick with the same routine for like the whole year, but maybe every few months, 3 months, I might change up certain things that will, shock my muscles and, help to raise my metabolism, and so forth. For the meditation and journaling, it's pretty much consistent. I don't really do much things different with that.
Do you ever switch up the order that you do those things in the morning? Like, there's still consistent things that you do and you have to get done, but like, hey, let's shake things up a little bit and like work out before I meditate, or read this book before
I would say that I mix up some of the times the routine on the back end of it. The waking up, making my bed, meditation, journaling is always the same. It's consistent. It hasn't changed in 20 over a little over 20 years now. It's been that way.
That's amazing.
But everything else, yes, I have. Maybe I'll read before I go to the gym, or whatever, that type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's real. I'm trying to build new habits every day, so getting my morning routine down is sometimes I'm tempted to do certain things instead of others, and I try to keep it as consistent as possible. But I also want to shake things up a little bit sometimes and do things out of sync.
And if that works for you, that's you got to do it. Like I said, there's no cookie cutter system here. It's not like, oh God, I'm going to do what Chris does. No, if I had to say two things that everybody, I mean, just my opinion, and again, you could draw your own conclusion. You could adopt other habits, but it's the meditation and journaling. Those two alone, coupled together, are a difference maker. They got me out of my problem into the solution, and that I say those are two success principles that I do every day that have helped me tremendously in my life and business.
Yeah, I don't necessarily call it journaling, but I do like a regurgitation, for lack of a better word, of like anything that's holding me back, I write that down. Anything that I want to accomplish, I write that down, and then I can kind of separate them into different categories a little bit. Like, all right, I just got that out of my head. I don't need to worry about it anymore. Now here are the tasks that like still matter. Here's what I got to prioritize. And so once I can kind of sort that out and do a brain dump, that's what helps set me up for success for the rest of the day, because I've gotten it out of my head. It's not just trapped in there and I'm trying to like remember all the things. I have it in front of me, like physically.
That's great. That is great. I tell you, it's just, for me, it just it's great for focus. It's great for just being present, and fear can't reside on a level like it does in the past and the future. And when you operate your life and you operate your business in the past and the future, that's where fear comes from, the past, from your childhood. And oftentimes it'll be subconscious, where it will then align to the current situation that you're facing. You'll project that fear into the future at the same time. Then you assume and speculate something that you're facing is not going to work, you're not good enough, or this, I tried it before and it didn't, whatever goes on with your inner critic. And then you create this level of anxiety, you begin to worry, and then that leads to procrastination. You don't make a decision, you don't follow through. And
Oh my
fear,
God, have we met before? I feel like we talked about this.
fear loves that. Fear loves those two places. But in the moment, fear has a tough time, really, having a hold on you. In the moment, that's where, like, you got to train yourself to be in the moment, and that's not an easy thing to do, but it can be done. I mean, you don't have to be a yogi in Nepal, and like those monks you see. No, nothing like that. But if it's consistent daily, that's where you start to see the difference.
Sure.
I heard two different stories that helped me understand some aspects of fear and anxiety. One of them, the first one I'll tell you is this guy was getting ready to go out in the woods, and while he's walking around out in the woods, he started becoming afraid. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm afraid maybe there's a bear in the woods. I should have thought about this first." And then he heard some rustling in the woods, and he thought, "Oh my God, I'm afraid that's a bear." And then the bear came out, and he said, "Oh my God, I'm afraid the bear's going to get me." So he started running. And then, he became afraid. I'm afraid the bear will actually run faster than me and catch up with me. And the bear did. And then he said, "Oh my God, I'm afraid that the bear is going to begin clawing me." And the bear did. Then he said, "I'm afraid the bear is going to start biting me and eating me." And the bear did. And he said, "Oh my God, I'm afraid the bear is going to kill me." And then he did. And for a long time, like, I just couldn't understand the point of that story. I mean, it just makes no sense, because all of those fears seem very rational. But the point is that we're afraid of the next thing that's going to happen instead of the thing that's currently happening.
There you go. There you go.
You stated very well that fear either lives in the past or it lives in the future, but it doesn't live. I'm not afraid of the thing that's happening right now at this second. I'm afraid of something else.
You just made a great point. I mean, like if let's say in that case, I'm not saying it's easy to do, but if he found a place to be calm and found in the moment and had some peace, that may have neutralized that bear, because the bear reacts to fear.
Right.
And when you project that something's going to even be worse, as the next phase of this fear process, then it manifests itself. It's kind of like you will it to happen. And that's a great point that you made there. Kind of like when I talked about my wife, getting married to my wife with the values and principles, and it really illustrates that very well when it comes to fear.
The second story, and it took me a while to get the lesson out of that. And once I got the lesson out of this next one, like, I began to apply it, and it was very powerful. It's almost the same result, but there's a story of a monk that was walking along. Of course, it can't be true because the guy dies, and so you wouldn't know the story. But there's a story of a monk walking along, and he slipped and started falling off a cliff. And so naturally he's like reaching and trying to hold on to anything he can so he doesn't fall. And the only thing he can grab is a flower. And so all the way down while he's falling, he's just smelling the flower and enjoying it, and then hits the bottom and he dies. And like, for the longest time, that story confused me, but I realized, like, no matter what's coming up, if it's, in his case, seconds away, or in my case, I'm afraid of what's going to happen next month or next year or next week, like, why can't I enjoy right now anyway? Like, I don't know if I'm actually going to hit bottom, so to speak. I mean, we're not falling off cliffs, so whatever I'm afraid of, like, I'm not really sure that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's not like a life or death situation, but again, it's that he, in that case, when he fell off the cliff, it was beyond his control. There was nothing, no matter worry or stress, was going to save his life.
Yeah,
right. So he might as well enjoy the flower, smelling it on the way down.
Exactly.
Yeah, even in that moment, he like found peace and was able to like enjoy that moment.
Exactly.
And there's a movie. Meeting the Robinsons. It's a cartoon. I think it's maybe a Disney cartoon
Oh, yeah.
about the little boy who uh, he doesn't know it, but like his son in the future comes back and picks him up and takes him into the future, and he sees all of his family. And there are a whole bunch of really very different characters. Every one of them is very, very different. But then he goes back to where his current time, and he knows that's the life I'm walking into. And it was an amazing life, by the way. Like, he became this technology guru and built so many different things. And the song that ends that movie is so powerful to me, because it says that in these little moments, that this is where life is actually happening, and it's every moment. So not letting these moments get, any one of these one moments get away, because I will only regret the things that I wish I would have done. So why not just go ahead and enjoy this moment and do that thing, whatever it is, and that way I'm not living with regret later. Even if things don't work out well, I'm going to enjoy this particular moment, because I don't know about the next one, or
Exactly.
what's to come.
I agree. I think that's a great story, and it's true. It's the way I always say is, like, I trust the process, and even when things are going south or challenges are coming left and right, I say there's a reason, and I'm going to look at it in a positive way and look for the opportunities disguised in the setbacks, because that as I go through it, it's going to just propel me even further ahead. Just having that attitude of gratitude, so to speak, to kind of embrace that, and just again learning how to just focus on what I can control and letting go of the rest. That was a hard thing for me to learn, and I learned the hard way, because I always had to control everything, even the things I couldn't control, and I'd lose every time.
I deal with that on a daily basis, trying to give up control of certain things. Yeah,
Yeah.
getting comfortable with not being in control.
Yes.
So Catherine just said she has to drop off. She has become one of our regulars.
Thanks for being here, Catherine.
Yep. Thoughts and prayers for whatever has happened. We hope everything turns out well. And thanks for coming and watching this whole time. We really appreciate it. One other one that I would like to go back to is starting that value statement and the why. I picked this up from Simon Sinek. He's a big why guy, and from what he taught, I built out this idea. And I really feel like people first connect with why before what. And unfortunately, in business, we always want to tell people what we do. Like, here's the product, here's the service, but people won't connect with that particular thing, but they will connect with the why that's behind it. So if we say, I started this company because, and then it's a really strong value statement, your ideal customer, like the trust and the authority is there already. They don't even know what your products are yet.
Yes.
So
they've already established that they're on the offense now, not on the defense.
Yeah.
So how do you help your clients develop their why? What are some of the questions and exercises you take them through?
Yeah, I take them through. I have an exercise program that I take them through, but before we actually do it for their business, we really got to get their own why.
Yes.
And if there's more than one person involved, let's say it's a partnership, or usually we'll look at the the key people involved, and we'll find out if there's an alignment there in some way. Again, we can't assess everybody in the company, especially if it's a big company, but nonetheless, if we can find some common ground where people have certain values and principles that they share that are common to the organization, they're more likely to now buy into the culture. They're more likely to commit to the process, to commit to change. Where if it's not the case, it's going to be a struggle. And so basically, I walk them through that, and then we walk them through a series of questions in terms of things that that relate to their business. Again, getting to the story. What's the story behind starting the business? What are some of the compelling reasons why you're doing what you're doing? So if you're like, I'll just use a realtor as an example. Well, hey, would you become a realtor because you think that I can make a lot of money selling homes? Well, again, that wouldn't be a strong value or principle. I mean, some people are motivated by money, yeah, obviously, but nonetheless, there's got to be something else. Maybe again, somebody said, well, hey, I just love I'm a woman. I have kids. It just allows me to work in pockets of time in this profession where I can still raise my children. I love to be involved in activities. It gives me an opportunity to talk to other housewives and other maybe their husbands during sporting events with their kids, and they know that I'm really focused on family oriented items. And then when they find out I'm a realtor, I'm more or less going to be top of mind, and they're going to refer people to me. So it's again getting to that, really what's the why, and then kind of walking them through developing a statement that's very specific, clear, that not only says why you do what you do, and basically exemplifies those core values and principles, but might use a brief story to kind of what you talked about, and what's compelling to your audience. So it could be a paragraph, and a lot of times, you could use a value statement like your elevator pitch, instead of talking like, hey, I do this, this, and this. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's again, this is a way to establish people buy based upon trusted relationships. You got to develop the relationship, and a value statement will help to create, create and then forge relationships.
Yeah, and for me, when I'm interacting with people and showing them what networking looks like on a more holistic level, a lot of people are always like, well, how do I make deeper connections if like they don't understand what it is that I do? And my response is always something along the lines of, well, when you're introducing yourself, are you just saying like, hey, I'm so and so and my title is this at XYZ company? Because I'm not going to understand what you do as that title. Titles are so arbitrary.
Yeah,
I want to know who you are and what you do really well for that company. Like
exactly.
set yourself apart right out the gate. Because that's what's going to resonate with me, and that it's also going to stick in my mind for later. I'm going to be like, oh, this person's really great at doing this. Like, I'm going to remember that, as opposed to like a job title that goes in one ear out the other.
No, it's a dime. A CEO. I'm a salesperson. Yeah, whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's again why they connect with that, and then something that's going to be of interest to them, something they can relate to. It's
Yeah,
about relating and understanding. That's what it comes down to in the end. I mean, and you got to establish that right off the bat to really start developing and forge quality relationships that could become your sphere of influence, that can then become your referral base going forward.
sure.
And I've actually met people, and they gave me a really good why statement in their introduction. Maybe they were already trained in it, or they already knew. I'm not really sure. Maybe they just did it accidentally. But I really connected with them. It was like, oh wow, I hope we can work together. And then later, through the conversation, I found out the types of work that they do, and I realized there's like we're in completely different fields, and it's almost like a disappointment that I'm not able to actually work, or collaborate or whatever with
Collaborate
this
with them,
person.
but you may be able to, something could come along that, if something is out of your wheelhouse or not in the industry that you're in, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I remember talking to that so and so, because it's still because you had that connection. You never know if you could make a referral. It would have nothing to do in your business at all. It just happened that you were having a conversation, and it kind of triggered something that you remembered that person based upon that conversation about their why, not again what they did. Because if they talked about what they did, you would have forgotten it. Would have been
Yeah.
you wouldn't even have remembered it.
Well, we are at the top of the hour. 1 minute past, actually. And I think we started maybe 1 or 2 minutes late. So it's probably been about 60 minutes total. Any wrap up thoughts? Any last things, like for the people that are watching and will watch this? A lot of people will come back and watch the replay.
Yeah.
That you'd like to last thoughts you'd like to leave with?
Yeah, I would just say again, just get true to, who you are, your why, put together a value statement for yourself and your business. And here's something that I operate my business and my life on a daily basis, and it has not failed me. It doesn't mean that it always happens on your time, but it's a statement I use a lot of times when I talk, when I'm coaching my clients, and when I'm on podcasts and shows like this, that it's called give without expectation. Again, you're not giving just to give and let somebody take advantage of you. That's a different story. But you're giving without expectation, receive without resistance. So what this means is if you can learn to operate from the process That's going to free you up from expectations. See, expectations often go unfulfilled because they're tied to things you can't control. And when they go unfulfilled, it breaks down the process. Focus on the process that leads to the desired result. So when you give without expectation and receive without resistance, it will come back, maybe not from the source that you gave to, but it comes back from somewhere else. And oftentimes could be something even better. And that you're not going to shut it down and go, oh, you didn't have to do that. Because when you deny it, you're not only denying yourself, you're denying that person. And you might be denying other people that you may be working with or talking with that day. I've done this and shown that this has worked. And it's energy. It's the law. It's a law. So even if somebody gives you, even if it's 10 cents, you receive it. It's not that you need the money. It's just, again, the fact that you are receiving without resistance, because you're giving that person the opportunity, giving it to you for more prosperity and others that are around you at that time. And you're opening up yourself for more better things to come, no matter what difficult period you're going in your life and business. Yeah. So give without expectation, receive without resistance. I always like to close any discussion I have with that.
That's such a good transfer of energy right there, because like you have to you're transferring your energy by giving, and you're giving people the positive, but then you're also receiving without the resistance, so they're transferring their positivity to you. And that's I have trouble taking compliments from people, so it's in the same vein too, because I need to receive the compliments. Yeah.
All right. Well, Chris, it has really been a pleasure to have you. So many great things. I've been busy taking notes. It's been so good. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us.
I can't thank both of you. Wonderful hosts, and really made this discussion really flow. And I enjoyed my time here today. And I'm hope again that the audience gets a lot of value. And again, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully we can have you back on later down the road and recap some of the things and see if people have made any progress.
I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.